the invisible man. Oh, the invisible man.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Invisible Man. We have the wonderful Glen Foster as joining us today, but first let's introduce the hosts. My name is Mark David Stallard. On the bottom of the screen there next to me is, looking cool with the sunglasses, is Ryan Jans. And the other guy in the middle is the inimitable Colorado Phil. Say hi, guys.
Hey.
So I'd appreciate it, guys, if you could get it out of the way. If you can like, share, subscribe, like the video, share it to your personal timelines and wherever else, that would be great. We're live on YouTube and Facebook, so if you haven't subscribed to YouTube already, please do. That helps us out a lot. And I think we're ready to go. So let's let me tell you a little bit about Glen. So Glen is an accomplished multi-instrumentalist, singer, songwriter, producer, and president of Rescue Records and Parent Publishing and Productions. He has been performing professionally for more than 40 years and has released 7 albums of original material. His latest international release is a rock album entitled Not Far Away, which I'm sure we'll be talking about today. Foster has toured Canada extensively from coast to coast on the same bill as Lighthouse, Sammy Hagar, Dr. Hook, among many others. So thank you very much. Without further ado, Glen, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Hello, Mark. I'm doing pretty good, actually. It's just around noon here, so I'm nicely awake. I've been up for a walk and got my blood circulating, and I'm feeling pretty good today. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, excellent. So I don't know how well the audience knows you, but let's assume they don't know you very well. And maybe you could add a little bit to yourself to what I've already said.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a full-time musician. I have a band that's my basic band is a 3-piece band with guitar, bass, and drums. And often my wife will come in and sing with me because she sings on a lot of our recordings. So we do. We've done small pubs and little bars and folk houses and those kinds of places. I also will go out and just sing as a single sometimes. I do quite a few gigs just as a soloist, and occasionally my wife will come along and sing with me. The other thing that I have kind of going for me is I'll bring out other players if I get a dance or like a corporate event where we need to have a little more power. I'll either bring in a keyboard guy or sometimes a saxophone player. So I'm kind of versatile that way, and I can do all kinds of formats. If we have an outdoor show that's got a little bit more money available, I'll often bring in a keyboard player, and it just fills out the sound and allows us to play more music that I wouldn't otherwise just play as a single.
Nice, yeah. I think I tend to sometimes I'll play as a solo artist as well. I think in the recent years, Ryan did the really unspeakable thing of getting married and having a kid, so that made it a little difficult to book gigs. Hi, Jess. I'm just joking. So
I did that years and years ago. It kind of interrupted my career a little bit, but I've been on the road for 10 years, and I guess I was kind of due for a change. I didn't realize it at the time, but my wife did, and so to kind of wean myself off of being on the road, and I toured Canada from one end to the other, from Newfoundland to Vancouver Island back and forth 2 or 3 times. I started working in music stores to kind of settle me down, and learned how to teach guitar lessons and work kind of normal hours, which is odd for a musician. But that kind of settled me down, and then we did start a family, and that's when I moved out to Vancouver Island, because I originally grew up in Southern Ontario, which was great for venues and bars to play, and hotels, and good for touring. From the Toronto Hamilton area, you could drive for 100 miles in any direction, and there'd be just like dozens and dozens of places to play.
Nice. So you're obviously music is in your bones, but so was you from a musical family, or is it something that you kind of developed by yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. There's no real history of music in our family, but I grew up with a piano in my house or in the family home, and my older sisters took piano lessons, and so one summer I just sat down at the piano and taught myself how to play.
Great.
I never took lessons, but I did take guitar lessons when I was about 10 years old, and that kind of kicked things off for me. It was funny because at that time, what was really kind of big, it was the Royal Ontario Conservatory of Music, and it was either accordion or Hawaiian guitar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, funny, eh? So I took Hawaiian guitar, and
what? You didn't take the accordion?
I wanted to take the accordion. They were more expensive. I couldn't afford an accordion. But
you're thinking about all those polka gigs that you gave up where you could have got free like halapshi and pierogi.
I know. just like Weird Al. He made me build a career out of that. But the Hawaiian guitars worked out well for me because it translates into dobro, which I use a fair bit, and I can also sit down and play lap steel in a country gig or just a nice instrument to have. And it's also taught me the technique to be able to play slide guitar on a six string guitar.
Oh wow,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when did you? So when did you start playing your instruments? There's too many to.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I started taking guitar lessons about age 10, I think it was, and it was only a couple of years before I got to play at like a home and school Christmas event or something. I was on stage, at maybe the age of 10 or 12 or something, and I got a taste for what it was like to be in front of people playing music. And there's another fella down the street that was playing 6-string guitar, so I bought a 6-string guitar, and he taught me how to play. And then a few years, and I was in my first band, and having the piano at home, like I say, I was just kind of self-taught on keyboards. So one thing led to another. Most guitar players know how to play a bass, so occasionally I'll get a call. Somebody needs a bass player for a gig. Yeah. Wherever there's a gig, you'll have people that can fill in. So
yeah.
Right?
I think I can attest to that. As a guitarist, bass is easy, isn't that right, Ryan?
Yeah, you say that. But
it's easy peasy, huh?
If I were to get you my 6-string bass, you probably wouldn't know what to do with all of it. My baby.
No. Yeah. All right. So it's going to make some comment about a 12-string guitar, but I won't. So
12 strings are for Stairway to Heaven, and then people who think they're folk artists.
That's right.
No, let's not go into the ditch now.
Well, actually, I just wanted to say to everybody, I didn't mention this earlier, but we usually have technical difficulties when we're getting ready for the show. Everything on my end, everything was smooth. We're about 5 minutes in, just before we go live. Ryan, the power went out in Ryan's neighborhood, so he's actually on his phone with no lighting or anything. Anyhow,
so that's why it doesn't quite look exactly the same. And anybody who has watched the show is no stranger to us having some kind of glitch or technical interruption or something.
Yeah.
And I have 2 mics that I usually use. I got it set up, balanced perfectly. Mark and I are just having a fabulous conversation beforehand. We're doing everything that we need to. And all of a sudden, I was like, "What happened?" Like the whole room, the only thing I have, the only light I have, is coming from across the room. Everything else is dead. I go outside. My neighbors are all like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" So, at some point, it's gonna get. It may get real bright here, and then I may go back to my normal rate.
Wait. Listen for sirens and get ready to duck. Then you can avoid the front pay. We talked about this before the show.
Yeah.
That's
So
always my biggest fear too.
Hey?
If you're insinuating that I got to grow off, it doesn't matter. It's legal. I can grow. You're not going to waste the flash being on me.
Interesting, no?
Guys, we got can I do a little shout out now to some people who have joined us. Shaleem has joined us on YouTube. He's actually he got back earlier than he often does for golf, and he made it for the beginning of the show. So thanks for I'm sure you scheduled that way, Shaleem. Thank you. Pauline Santa, as always, has joined us, and Sonia Webb, who then says it's always Ryan. So hi, Ryan. So Ryan was our guest from last week. So it's good to see you, Ryan.
Hey, Sonia.
There you go. Did you have any more? I guess
I think I was having technical difficulties with my mics last week, and I hadn't quite adjusted the levels yet. So that's 2 from me. That's 2 strikes, man.
Hey, Sonia, can I ask a question? Sonia, are you guys hitting the Jello shots in the fridge again? Just asking.
Now it might seem early to you and me, Glenn, but Sonia and Ryan are actually in the UK, and it is 8:15 p.m. there, so it's acceptable.
Right, yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah, you can be talking to people anywhere in the world, and you're never sure who's going to be listening into a program like this, right?
Yeah, that's right. Great. So back on track. So how long were you playing and performing before you started writing songs and discovered you had a talent for that?
Okay, well, I'm thinking around the time that I finished high school and went into college, I had a summer there where I was in a band, and so around the age of 18, 19, I kind of got serious about writing songs. And it was at that time, of course, that the Beatles were so big, and Neil Young, and I got into Bob Dylan, and so all those influences. One of the things that kind of really stood out to me was seeing a guy like Neil Young or somebody who could kind of carry the show by themselves with just an acoustic guitar, being such a good guitar player, such a good singer, and having just like a great song that would captivate everyone's attention. And I thought, that's really saying something. So that kind of influenced me on wanting to be able to write songs.
Great.
Phil.
Yeah.
Colorado Phil.
Yes. Colorado Phil, he's the classy one.
Phil, tell us how you really feel about that thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Too right. Okay.
Oh, Phil.
Okay. So as a songwriter, it was a little while ago. I guess we were just coming to the end of we did a stint of playing in pubs and clubs, and we played as a threesome. We had a drummer called Dan, who was a great drummer, actually, very versatile. We were practicing a song, a brand new one, and he said to me, yeah, that's a good song. I said, definitely a typical It's All in the Mind song. I'm like, what do you mean? It kind of sounds like the other ones, and it's fine. It's a good song. And at that point, I'm like, I don't want that. I don't mind having a similar sound between the songs, but they start blurring in. I don't want that. So I went crazy and bought myself an electric guitar and some pedals just so I could try and mix everything up. So one song doesn't sound like the same as the other. Now, in your bio, this is what I'm leaning to, is it states that if it sounds like Foster changes his tune with every release you'll write, and then you're quoted, I don't bother to write songs that sound like someone else. So my question is, how do you keep the originality going from song to song? I mean, you've been doing this for 40 years, 7 albums.
Yeah.
How do you keep it fresh?
Well, you know what? I think probably one of the best things is just, wasn't it Frank Zappa that said, shut up and play your guitar? And so I think the main thing is to, just spend time with your instrument. And if you're doing that, then hopefully you're improving. You're maybe learning new styles, or you're attempting things that are difficult. And in so doing, you get better. And if you play something that you've never played before, all of a sudden you think, wow, that sounds good enough to make a song out of.
Right.
And so I think time spent with your instrument is really kind of the neat thing about developing. I would like to think that my songs are original, but maybe they're original to me, and that here's something I'm playing now on the guitar. Maybe it's a chord pattern or a different inversion of a chord that I've never played before. I've never heard anybody play that. So to me, that's original. That sounds worthy of me making a song out of it, rather than just saying, okay, here's G, A, and D, G, A, and D, G, A, and D, and writing another folk song or something.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there isn't. No, that's okay too.
It's interesting because. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
I'll say one of my favorite Beatles song, "Tomorrow." Tomorrow never knows. Tomorrow never dies. Is the James Bond.
Right.
Tomorrow never knows. 2 chords, and it's a brilliant. It's a brilliant song. So just sticking with that, and also you can't really do a catchy chorus with much more than 3 chords. Otherwise, it just kind of blurs in. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth. So Ryan, you were going to say something.
Yeah, this is kind of. Well, we'll throw it out and leave it open. I've brought this point up on other shows with other artists when we talk about writing and that fear of sounding the same. And so we always do the comparison. If you look at Led Zeppelin 1 and then you look at In Through the Outdoor, there's a huge amount of musical growth that happened over those X amount of years from 1970 all the way to 1980 before John Bonham passed. And they're different styles. You think Led Zeppelin 1, 2, and 3 kind of sound same, but then when you get into things like Physical Graffiti, and especially by the time you get to In Through the Outdoor, they really sound quite different. It almost sounds like a different band. Now, that's just normal musical growth. That's changed. That's right. Then when you think of a band like AC/DC, and when Back in Black came out, he was being interviewed by somebody. Angus and Malcolm were being interviewed by somebody, and they said, well, don't you think you've just released another album that sounds like your last one? And he says, no, I'm going to stop you right there. We've released 12 albums that sound exactly the same. So they knew their sound. They knew people liked their sound. Obviously, they're not all 12-bar blues, rock-inspired songs. Thunderstruck is an amazing piece of compilation, and same thing with some of their songs in the mid-'80s actually did sort of depart from that, but there was still that AC/DC sound. So it's a little bit different between the two when you're two sort of different philosophies. Where in that do you fall in? Are you more on the AC/DC side where I've got a unique sound? I'm always going to use a chorus and a phaser like this so that they know it. And when I play my first chord, regardless of what it is, that's how I sound. Or are we going to be more like the Led Zeppelin, and we're going to start here as a psychedelic round and be sort of an end as the pioneers to heavy metal? Where do you fall in that?
Yeah, I think it's kind of always a bit of a challenge to have cohesiveness, especially if you're creating something like an album where you got maybe 10 or 12 songs and it goes from one end to the other, and you want to develop a sound. And I have to admit that I have not been as focused on that, having like that cohesive sound, as I am on wanting to bring in different elements that I think suit the song, the material, and stray away from like being like one, like being pigeonholed as, oh, it's another country album, or oh, this is a good solid rock album from one end to the other. It's like a good solid rock album until you get to the bagpipe solo in the middle. And that, that's kind of what I'll do. And I don't really do it, to be anti sort of cohesive and have be genre specific. But I think it's just my nature that I'm being known now for for everything that I do being kind of different. Although the thing that is cohesive is with any artist is, first of all, the voice. The person's voice is always going to kind of draw you back to like, oh yeah, I recognize that. I know who this is after hearing a few lines. And then certain elements, like I often kind of like to have acoustic guitar as a rhythm instrument. And that way I can take almost any song that I've written and put it on a stage in a folk club where I can just play the acoustic guitar, and people will recognize, oh yeah, there's that riff from that song, even though it's on acoustic guitar. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it kind of, expresses a little bit about how I feel and my songwriting process.
Well, it wasn't a right or wrong type of question either.
Sure.
When you think of it, Led Zeppelin attained success, huge success, global success. So did AC/DC. Both of them had vastly different strategies in reaching that. Some people criticize AC/DC for being too samey. Well, they're not sleeping on giant piles of money every night, and Angus Young is. Led Zeppelin was very brave and daring and really pushed, but that they probably couldn't have done that if they didn't have their roots as sort of a psychological or a psychedelic band anyways to start, right? Even a person like Sir Elton John has vastly different sounding albums from all the way through the 70s, all the way to the 80s, 90s. Incredibly different, but that just shows, again, just a different strategy, right? Hey, I'm tired of doing the same. I'm going to try something different. And that's fine. Neither is wrong. There's different ways to do things. It's more of a, hey, where do you fall in that? And no one's going to think less of you because you decide to go the AC/DC route, especially if you're successful at it, right? So
yeah. Well, I certainly don't have the international success that bands like that have achieved. But I think you're right. I think it's a reflection of growth in the artist. And this album that I've done here is a rock album, but I've also used choirs. Like I have a choir singing on one song, and I've got some folky things on it. The album before that, I did an album that had brass instruments on every song. So that was a conscious effort for me to write and arrange, arrangements for brass instruments. And the one I did before that, I think the one before that was pretty much all an acoustic album. And I find challenges in those types of things. Like for me to be able to write lines for saxophones and trumpets and trombones and that was a challenge. But it's partly because I'm influenced by bands like Chicago and Blood, Sweat and Tears and groups that use those elements in their music, and I'm thinking, I'm ready for that. I want to try that. My last album, the one that's out right now, I have 2 or 3 pieces that I wrote string arrangements for, and that's another thing that I think I would like to maybe follow a little bit further is to do orchestral arrangements behind rock songs. What are basically rock or folk rock songs.
Yeah, I love that. That's the album cover, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty cool cover, eh?
Yeah.
That photograph was taken by my son in Arizona, and it's called Cathedral Rock. And he has a very good camera, so we have a very high definition raw footage of that film. But if you look closely, you can see me standing on the top of the rock. Yeah. Or so it would seem.
So you really climbed it. So you really climbed it, eh? With your guitar.
Sorry?
So you really climbed to the top with your guitar.
No. But it's the illusion.
Helicopter, I figured.
It's the illusion of the guy looks far away, but he's not really far away. So that was kind of the concept of the
false perspective, yeah.
Yeah. Glad you like that.
No, it's a great concept. Great album cover concept.
But yeah, I totally mad that you took your private helicopter up there.
Yeah.
Well, he is actually a professional musician, so he can obviously afford it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay, just go.
Wasn't it Supertramp that had a picture of a grand piano on top of a mountain in the snow?
Yeah,
I think so. And I don't think that was.
No,
I don't think that was photoshopped. I think they probably hauled a grand piano up there in a helicopter and dropped it down.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Yeah.
I got one more question for you, Glenn, and then maybe we could get you to sing one of your songs, which would be great.
Okay.
So the question is on regard as in the same vein, just trying to keep things original and trying not to repeat yourself. Do you find that slows down your creativity? Obviously, if you just you mass produce maybe some country, we'll pick on some predictable country music with the 3 chords. You could probably pump out 100 of those a day.
Yeah.
I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek there, but do you find that it slows you down, or are you finding that that's so part of who you are that it just comes naturally?
Yeah. I don't look at slowing me down. And I do have friends who write a lot of songs, and they'll say, "Oh, yeah, come on over. I got another 4 songs that I wrote last week." And I wrote 1 song in 4 weeks. But what I think where I focus my time is arranging a song and like taking a basic song outlet and saying, or a song outline, and saying, well, what can I do with that? What would happen if I had a cello line in here, or an accordion part that played a counter melody? And I work a lot with harmonies. Most of my songs are pretty strong in harmonies, vocal harmonies. And so, like I'll literally spend, weeks or months writing 1 song. I'll just focus on that and get into the studio and then try different elements to it, rather than, like writing, 14 songs in 2 weeks type of thing. To me, it's more creatively satisfying to do that. And the other thing too that I find kind of goes hand in hand is that nowadays I'm doing a lot of music videos, and I'll bring in friends to help me, but I bought a fairly decent video camera, and I just love making amateur videos for my own songs. And there's a whole other thing for me that it's a way of artistic expression. And there's some obvious things that you hear a song and you think, okay, well, he's talking about a tree, so you get a picture of a tree. But then, there's all kinds of other things that, like, the tree can represent, or, things that you can present in a music video that don't necessarily come across the same way just by writing a song.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. I just want to call out to the audience. Someone called Fred Foster says, "Thanks for the shout out on the album cover, Dad." Any relation?
Nice. Yeah, Fred is listening in from New Jersey.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, he's there. So hi, Fred. Good to have you aboard with us.
Hi, Fred. Nice. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, and thanks for
Go visit our friend Ray Powers over in New York City there, Fred. He's a good, he was on our show a couple weeks back. Good, all-around good musician, and just was a joy to have him on. Hopefully Ray catches this, because I'm going to give him a good thumbs up there for you. And Fred, thanks for joining us and being your dad's #1 fan.
And
very much so.
And a hi to Chris Slady, who's joined us on YouTube as well. And he says, even in the quietest moments, I'm sure that's a reference to something we said earlier, but I'm not sure what's. Anyhow, so thanks for joining us, Chris.
I think that was where they had the piano on top of the mountain in the snow or whatever it was. That's probably what she's referring to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay. Well, let's hand over to you then, Glenn. If you want to give us one of your wonderful songs.
Which song are you doing, Glenn?
You want me to play a song for you?
If you would. I will switch the screen over so that all attention is on you.
There you go.
There we are.
Okay.
And
All right.
I'll back out. So go ahead and introduce the song, and we'll join you when you're done.
Right. So I think I'm going to play a song called "Another Day," and it's off of actually 2 albums ago, where I did kind of an acoustic album. But as I was kind of joking with Ryan there, I focused on the bagpipes to be kind of like the main instrument to carry the melody and play the head of this song, which was kind of interesting. So anyways, I think it's a pretty cool song. I might have to stand up here to sing it, and hopefully you can see me okay. Yeah,
Right there.
Yeah, that looks great. That looks
Right.
great.
All right, well, I'll give it a go. Here we go. Falcon stands on his perch, on a firm to fly. He sees the dealers wheeling by, try to steal the sky. From LA to Los Alvarez, from Mexico to Spain, stripping by down a different highway. It's another day. In dreams sometimes it seems like I'm a pixelated man, so fragmented, it's a war of words. I'm in a cryptomnesia van. I walk like a big man in town, I shudder at the storms of life. So lost in this, with these and those, they rarely see the light. When I wake up, it's another day. The whole world waits out there. First day of the rest of my life, so much more to share. It could all be gone so fast, over in a flash, while I'm wide awake, and it's another day. An aperture opens up on a window inside my mind. That orifice is shimmering in a picture of lines. Songwriter's circle, but it'll all work out someday. I'm easy rolling, and I reckon we can find a way. When I wake up, it's another day. The whole world waits out there. First day of the rest of my life, so much more to share. It could all be gone so fast, over in a flash. Now I'm on my way, and it's another day. The water pours down all around from the sky, from our eyes. At times we all just stand around, sometimes we run and hide. Crashing cymbals, loud guitars, my ears feel like they cry. Roaring bass, booming sounds, they almost make you cry. Out there, first day of the rest of my life, there's so much more to share. It could all be gone so fast, over in a flash, while I'm worlds away. It's another day, another day. It's another day. Yeah, it's another day.
Well, that was great. Thanks a lot there, Glenn.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yes, I was tapping
song.
my foot along the whole time. That was great. Right, let me get everybody back on the screen. Give me a sec.
Thank you very much.
There we go. We're all back. Yeah, we are gonna very shortly. We're gonna hand over to Phil for the Phil's free for all, which we have been neglecting doing the last couple of weeks, but we'll do that in a little bit. There's something more that I'd like to talk with you about, Glenn, and it's your latest single, "The Fruit of the Spirits." Now, it's a spiritual song on your album, "Not Far Away," but what really got my interest was that the song is being distributed, the copyright music, the sheet music, is being distributed to many churches. And having come from an evangelical background myself, and having in the distant past written some religious / spiritual songs, I've always wondered how on earth that actually happens. How did that come about?
Well, For most of my life, I've kind of been interested in spiritual aspects of life, and I've done a fair bit of reading about different types of let's say religions, and how that's kind of guided people's lives. And I've spent a fair bit of time. I grew up in a church and was in a choir, and I've even done some worship leading in a church here that I attend. And so the song "Fruit of the Spirit" is actually the text of it is taken from a Bible passage. And the neat thing about it is that it doesn't say the word God or Christ or Jesus or those types of things that are so recognizable in Christianity. But it talks about what happens to a person when they do good things. It's very simple stuff. The golden rule, it's like do unto others, and you end up feeling good about your day. You do something nice for somebody does something nice back to you, and you become a good influence on people. That's really all the song says. So I find that it's really easy to present on a stage, in a bar or something, and people get it. That you don't have to be a churchgoer, you don't have to be this religion or that religion. It's just like people react and respond to the fact that let's be good to each other. Let's take care of the earth. Let's do things that will leave a good world for our children and for their children. And so anyways, because of the context of the song, it made it made it quite negotiable to just send out to churches, and I've had good response. I mean, there's gospel radio, Christian radio stations that are starting to pick up the song, and it's really neat. It's one of the cool things that happened just last week was a church just outside of Chicago. I think it's Steel City Gospel Radio from Gary, Indiana. The pastor got hold of me. He says, "I really like this song. We're going to add it to our playlist." And so I go on their website. And they're primarily, he's a black fella. They're primarily gospel black singers on this radio station.
Oh, we got a little frozen there.
Are we free? Are we frozen?
There was a freeze. I'll just.
I think we're good.
Back now.
Okay.
I'm just going to close down my browser. I think I froze up there. So I'm just going to close this down and free up some resources.
Alrighty.
Okay, keep going. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. So anyways, I'm glad you brought that up. It's interesting that a song like that is kind of receiving wide acceptance, and it's quite satisfying for me.
That's great. So how did the song get distributed as sheet music? Was that something that? That you were? Sorry, carry on.
I have a good friend. I just called him up, and it's a fellow that plays keyboards in my band when I need a keyboard guy. And I said, "This is what I need." And so he did like a full piano score. He also did like a brief kind of 2-pager. And we've also got a 1-pager, which is what choirs and worship teams and that will use. So it was easy to get that done. Now the key thing too now is that there are distribution agencies or places where people that want to use a song for, say, a church service or in their gospel choir or something, will go and they will download the music from the site. And there's 2 or 3 of those. And in order for me to have my song represented on their site, I have to do the groundwork and get people to accept it. First of all, so I'm looking for acceptance from radio stations and churches and everything enough so that my song can be accepted into the catalog of sheet music that will be widely distributed, throughout North America and abroad.
Okay, nice. Now you had said something earlier that you arrange the music for the horns, for instance. And I was wondering, do you write the actual music formally, or how do you actually communicate the arrangements to the other musicians?
Yeah, I because I took guitar lessons and learned how to teach, and I got my certification in music theory. I am able to write music. And so, for complex things where I've got parts for 5 horns or maybe even 5 vocal voices, or it could be like a string ensemble, I write that stuff out. And I kind of have my own sort of abbreviated style, so it doesn't look as nice as it would if you bought a piece of music out of a store. Okay. But yeah, I can write it out, and that's sort of the easiest way for somebody who, even if you don't read music really well, you can follow. Well, this note starts here, and then it goes up, and it goes up again, then it comes down, and it goes back. Yeah. People can follow music along like that.
Yeah, for sure. I can read music very, very slowly. I can't play and read. And I think I learned green sleeves by reading the actual sheet music. That was years ago, but it is definitely a talent. It is a skill. It's something that I know that's something that does not come naturally. You have to actually learn it. Anyway, just kind of
you learn it, and then you have to utilize it. You have to practice it. Yep. But for a lot of things, it's like guitar players nowadays that get tab because they want to learn how to play Eddie Van Halen solo. They'll get the tab, and it's slow going, but you do learn it, and then you get it into your brain so that you memorize it and you can wheel it off, eh?
Yeah, it's all muscle memory after a while, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna hand over to Phil in just a second, just for a quick free for all. But I just want to shout out some feedback for the song. Although before I do that, Chris, commenting on his previous comment about Even in the Quietest Moments, says Super Trump album. I don't know if that was a typo or not, or whether that was for humor.
I hope so.
Or that was for humor. Super Tramp, perhaps. Anyway, Pauline Santorio says great song, and Shalim says he enjoyed that song, and he says he hoped there's another. And yes, we're going to get Glenn to do another song towards the end, or probably not another 5-10 minutes, I guess. But first, if that's okay, Glenn.
I think I could muster that. Yeah, probably can.
And so let's, for the first time in a few weeks, let's have Phil's Free for All.
Well, you know what?
It's been a pretty quiet time. I skipped ahead just a little bit there. No retakes, no redos.
It's been so long.
Oh, you should have.
It's been so long you forgot we did that. Okay, here you go.
Oops.
There we go.
No, when I think of Glen Foster group music, I think party music. Is that on purpose?
I think it's great to have up-tempo, lively music that people can kick up their heels and dance to.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. Like, I mean, party out there tonight. Cactus Whiskey, Rockabilly Fever, Stepping Out on the Saturday night, or on Saturday night. Then there's some newer ones that I've heard, but I'm not done playing the new ones yet. I still haven't heard Fruit of the Spirit, Dusty Roads, Dalgety Bay, and Brains, Brawn, and Beauty. That sounds like a party song.
Yeah, that's a great song. It really is. I'll just quickly give you a rundown on that, and then I might play it for you. That's a song that I wrote in about 1985, and we did a demo of it. And I've always used the song in my live performances, and I think it's really down to earth. It talks about people and their struggles in life. In the early 80s around here, interest rates got high and people couldn't afford their houses, so they were walking away from them. You know, they were struggling to make ends meet. And, you know, that type of thing we see, you know, through the years all along. Anyways, I really like the song, so we re-recorded it. And there's a song that developed to a point where I used to just jam in the middle of it on a diminished chord. And after playing it so much, I thought, what else can I do in there? So I created this scene that's like an old silent movie where the beautiful girl's tied to the railroad track and the train coming barreling down the line and the bad guys are getting away with the money. And when we recorded the video for this song just 2 or 3 weeks ago, we actually went to a place behind my drummer's house where there's a railroad track and the trains don't come along very often. And we got a beautiful girl and tied her to the railroad tracks and the whole 9 yards. So it's going to be in the video.
And you got her off in time, I hope.
Cool.
You got her untied in time.
Yeah, we did. We untied her in time.
Good.
Well, when that video is ready to hit there, Glenn, make sure you send us a link and we'll scream it from the rooftops, man, because that sounds like a fun video.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I also we dressed up as Sonny and Cher. There was one line that's like, I got you, baby, you got me. So I thought, well, let's dress up like Sonny and Cher. You know, it's pretty funny.
Which one were you?
Thank you. Yeah.
It was Cher, of course. Come on, man. Can't you see it?
I can do Cher. You know, we had wigs on, whatever. Do you want me to play that song for you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yes.
Phil's looking blank behind his sunglasses.
No.
A lot of my songs are like 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes long, so it's not too long.
Okay. I will.
Some people find life is frightful funny when they're hanging on by a thread.
No retakes, no redos.
Are we okay?
Yeah, we think so. Something went screwy. Sorry about that. There we go. Sorry.
Well, we can try it again.
When I switched the screen, it's kicked off again. So apologies.
Welcome
Okay,
to
I'll
the
go
Invisible
again.
Man show.
Yeah.
Some
Not a
people
shame.
find life is frightful funny when they're hanging on by a thread, grasping for more time and mortgage money while the roof caves in overhead. Some people claim they just need a break, something to show for the time they take. They've got brains for the brilliant, brawn for the beast, beauty for the bashful, they abuse it the least. Love for the lonely, food for the feast, one for the only, prayer for the priest. Some people live in life like a dream, fancy crown kings and queens. In ivory castles with courtyard kingdoms, they're serfs and servants at need. Yeah, but I got you, baby, and you got me together. We'll drive these dreams into reality. We've got brains for the brilliant, brawn for the beast, beauty for the bashful, they abuse it the least. Love for the lonely, food for the feast, one for the only, prayer for the priest. It's a scene from a silent movie where the beautiful girl's tied to the railroad track and the train comes barreling down the line with smoke just billowing from its stack. The bad guys are getting away with the money and it looks like curtains, but wait, here comes our hero to save the day. Some people's life runs from bad to worse, all in the flash of an eye. Struggling to fight back from last to first, and they call it success overnight. Some people make no mistake. They've got plenty to show for the time they take. They've got brains for the brilliant, brawn for the beast, beauty for the bashful, they abuse it the least. Love for the lonely, food for the beast, one for the only, prayer for the free.
Excellent.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you.
See, it's fun. I pictured myself on a deck in the shade, having a beer, trying not to burp out loud.
Well, I mean, it's, all those that crappy beer you drink, Phil. I think.
Hey, what?
It's all right. You don't worry. You'll come back to Manitoba, and we'll get you some real beer. It's all good.
Yeah.
Light beer.
Yeah.
Well, we can get me started on beer, and that's another hour show there, or 2 hours actually. If I get me talking about beer. Actually, although some of the best beer now is American, unfortunately. That's say unfortunate because it should be Canadian beer. But,
It's microbrewed at least.
Yep.
What?
Yep. Anyhow, so that's a different show. We should have a different. We should do a different show. A show about beer.
You're
I
right.
think we could do that one.
The great beer show. Yeah. There you go.
So Chris says nice stuff, Glenn. Shaleem, very well done. Glenn also enjoyed this song and this weird Fred Foster. I don't know where he comes from. Says great job, Dad. Love that jam.
Oh.
Again,
Thank you, Fred. And a shout out to Pauline too. I know Pauline's been following us.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you had a little bit of a back and forth, but I saw between you on YouTube there. Oh, sorry, on Facebook. I mean, that was fun to see. Yes. So I think we are.
Hey, I just want to mention something to people watching. If they want to watch this episode again, it's already right now at this very moment pinned to the top of the Invisible Man Show Facebook show page. All right. And everybody's tagged appropriately. And there's also, when you get there, there's a link there that'll take you to our YouTube channel for the Invisible Man Show. Follow that link, hit subscribe, and then hit that little tiny bell so that you're notified next time we go live.
For sure. And if you're, of course, the show is live on YouTube. We've got a few people watching it now, and it will stay up there as well. And this is a good little segue. We popped this up on the screen once or twice. Some Glen's contact information. All this information is already on the YouTube, in the description on the YouTube video. But just for those of you who are too lazy, Glen Foster dossier pretty much links to everything on there. And of course, he's on Glen's available Falcon Glen on Twitter.
Yeah, and then from there you can easily find your way to where you can download an album or stream some music or find my Spotify address and all that type of stuff too.
Yep, and additionally, all those links that you sent me, Glenn, by the way, are already in the YouTube video. So I obviously didn't want to put them all on the screen, but they're all there available on clickable links.
Can I address the 3 people watching right now on our YouTube channel? If everybody watching shares this to 2 friends, man, we're going to have a lot of people watching. So don't be afraid is my point. Don't be afraid to share the YouTube video, share the Facebook video if you're watching there.
Yeah, so it's actually great to see people on the YouTube channel. We usually get pretty much most of our views are all on Facebook, and we're trying to encourage people, and we have been trying to encourage people onto YouTube. So it's great to see people. So thanks everybody. Yeah. And here we go. So that's the Glen's information there. And I'm going to be careful I don't start the wrong video again. So apologize, Glenn. When I set off Phil's free-for-all, I didn't turn it off. So when I switched screen, it kicked off. So I do apologize.
No problem.
I was desperate. You should have seen me behind the screen going, I'm going to try and turn this off. Anyhow.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, so we got the Invisible Man contact information. Everything's available on the website, www.theinvisibleman.ca. The only thing that doesn't have a direct link is Phil's and my Twitter handles. So at MD Stallard and Colorado Phil 1 if you want to contact me and Phil on Twitter. And Phil, do you want to give out a little blurb about your radio show?
Yeah, so invite people to my Facebook show page, The Colorado Phil Show. Oh, yeah. It was a bad week. It was a tragic week in terms of podcasts. Anchor and Apple podcasts have taken down the Colorado Phil Show podcast. So the only way to catch the show is live live from my studio, live from the station VW Radio, www.vwradio.co. And I should mention also, right, the station fundraiser. It's the pinned post on my show page on Facebook. I won't read it all because you guys can all read. So,
well, we hope.
But the station needs your support, and by extension, the Colorado Film Show needs your support because if you want to keep hearing me, I saw some good news somewhere this week. We can now expect to be operating till the end of August. I think I saw.
Oh, okay.
Which is better than July.
Yeah, for sure.
So. The link is there. It takes you to www.vwradio.co. Right away, you see the donation thing. I don't know what to call it, form. And you can do a one-time donation. You can do a repeating donation, a yearly donation, whatever. The whole explanation is up there, pinned to the top of the Colorado Film Show Facebook show page. The show is Monday to Friday, 12 to 4 p.m. Pacific, 1 to 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time here in Colorado, 2 to 6 p.m. Central in back home Manitoba, and 3 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time in the East.
Perfect. Thanks, Phil. We do this just because we love to do it. But if you'd like to show your appreciation and buy us a coffee, we do have a link. So buymeacoffee.com/It's All in the Mind. If that's too much for you, there's a link on the website as well, theinvisibleman.ca. And completely unrelated to the show, I have got a couple of kids' books up available. Well, a kid's book, The Funny Stance. I've got one being released actually two books actually being released in August, which will be part 2 of this book, or rather the second episode in the series, and a collection of short stories. Anyway, so they'll be available, when they're available, we'll announce them anyway. So with that, I think that's. Let me try and get everybody back here without playing any unwanted videos.
Free Slurpee Day.
What was that?
Did you know today is Free Slurpee Day? But I think it was canceled.
Oh,
What?
Because of COVID. Yeah.
Oh. Well, it hasn't stopped.
It's also where's that one I saw there? National Mojito Day today. National Blueberry Muffin Day.
Woohoo! Blueberry muffin.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I do love me a blueberry muffin.
National Cheer Up the Lonely Day. Who can sing that song? Only the Lonely. Come on, take us out on that.
Almost. We're almost there.
I will
Well, we got I just want to shout out George Wivey has joined us from the UK. That's actually an old school chum. Yes, that was when schools used to be black and whites. We're a bit old now. And Chris Clady said, Garwood ? I know what that means. Yes, why not? Just give me a call. If it's open, we'll go. Okay. Yep, we'll explain later. Okay, I think we are probably done for the day. We're only, as usual, we're got halfway through what we wanted to talk about, Glenn. Would love to have you back on.
That's okay.
So we have some videos and other stuff.
Thanks for having me on the show, Mark, Ryan, and Phil. It's good to see you guys. And
good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be involved here.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much. And on behalf of the Invisible Men, me, Mark, David Stallard, Ryan Jans, and Phil Dupree, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll catch you all next week. Bye.
Oh, the invisible man.